Is Oxford's traffic filtering system a tax on the poor? Okay, I want to get to that, but I need to do some context first. Very brief recap. Oxford is introducing a traffic filtering system where you can only drive a car through the other 5 districts of the city besides your own for 100 days per year. The other days you would need to take transit or, for example, drive around the city to get to your destination. I want to reiterate, you get a 100-day permit if you're a resident of Oxford. You can drive anywhere you want in the city, and in the other times you can drive around the city or go anywhere else in the world. And basically every mode of transit other than cars, buses, taxis, vans, mopeds, motorcycles, etc. are allowed to pass through these filters all the time, which are camera driven. They're not physical barriers, and they simply scan your license plate to check if you have the permit. There's also a set of exemptions for people. If you're caring for a family member, you can get an exemption if you're getting medical care or if you're an emergency worker. I would also add that Oxford commissioned a business study which indicated the effects of this would be disproportionately positive to businesses. Now, a few caveats. I've never been to Oxford. I'm not saying that this is the exact policy that I would personally design from the ground up, but I do think it's a reasonable policy to try and experiment with, which is what the City Council is doing. This is being implemented on a trial basis, and they reserve the right to adjust it later based on the results. But yeah, I want to comment on the idea that this is an anti-poor regulation. I'm going to take a look at what could be done with the money to really improve this regulation. But first, I think one must consider whether the very act of restricting traffic benefits the poor and middle class already. First of all, reducing traffic by cars is going to reduce congestion. If you do use your car, overall driving should be a better experience for you after this is implemented. Walking and cycling and other modes of transit will become safer and more preferable. The more people prefer walking, cycling, and transit, the more money can be diverted towards those modes of transit. This actually enables more people who want to live without a car to be able to, which will save them a lot of money. And as I mentioned before, there has been a business assessment which has indicated that the public and private business impact will be disproportionately positive. For example, 2/3 of primary school and 84% of secondary school trips are already non-car trips. And those trips should be even smoother with less cars on the road. Okay, so now I want to think about who is the class of people that is supposedly benefiting from this kind of setup. Which rich person is actually benefiting from this? It has to be the level of rich person who doesn't mind paying 70 pounds every time they violate this filter, and who takes more than 100 trips per year through these other sections of the city by car. If you think about it, this class of person is very small and probably doesn't make up a large percentage of drivers anyway. Overall, I would guess that it's likely that the benefits of reducing traffic and congestion and car usage probably offset any penalty that some people who drive more than 100 times per year through these areas might suffer. This finally brings me to the idea of why I wanted to make this video in the first place, which is Pigovian taxes. I think that this is a kind of Pigovian tax. I don't have time to explain exactly what that is, but you can Google Pigovian tax. A Pigovian tax basically prices negative externalities into some kind of market action. And driving individual cars for all of your trips has all kinds of negative externalities that aren't normally priced in when you don't have any kind of tax associated with driving. However, if you really were concerned with this being a tax on the poor and you don't think all the benefits of prioritizing non-car modes of transit outweigh the cost, you could go even further and take all of the money collected from this particular fine and divert it to public transit or social welfare, or just distributing it as a UBI, whatever you want. Now, the City Council is not doing this, but rather than trying to dismantle this policy, you could just alter it by funneling that money to those people and to those causes. That being said, to recap, I think in order to prove that this is an anti-poor tax, you need to prove that the benefits of deprioritizing and taxing car usage in this way is outweighed by the costs of imposing a fine on people who drive for more than 100 days in these other districts of the city. I suspect that without even refunneling this money towards the poor directly, it is already probably a positive. But again, this is an experiment. I would like to remind people that this is not America. This is not a place that doesn't have great public transit. This is not a really spread out, sprawly place, at least not by American standards. But it's likely that many people will not be that impacted.